Hey, what's up, guys? This is Benny Ricciardi with rotocurve.com, and I'm here with our Benny's Bats edition for Friday, July 22nd. Big 15-game slate on tap for tonight. Everybody's in action. We got a lot of games to get into, so we're going to get right into it. What we like to do here at the Benny's Bats section is we take a look at each pitcher that's on the mound, try to figure out what their weaknesses are, and then figure out which bats on the other team profile to do the best against them. So we're going to start with the San Diego against Washington game. You got Perdomo on the mound for San Diego, young kid, 350 batting average allowed to both left and right-handed bats. Left-handed bats have 8 home runs in 33 innings against them, so that's probably the way you want to go after them. You got guys like Bryce Harper, who's in a pretty good spot, 441 WOBA, 309 ISO score for him. Daniel Murphy, 377 WOBA, 222 ISO score for him. Leadoff batter Ben Revere. I think all these left-handed bats are going to be in play. On the other side of this game, you got Tanner Roark. Normally, left-handed bats are the way to go against them, but he's been tough on lefties in 2016. Righties have actually been the ones hitting him. San Diego doesn't hit right-handed pitching well anyway. Maybe you can look at a guy like Will Myers. You got the lefties like Jankowski leading off, Solarte hitting cleanup. Ryan Shrimp has been on fire. But really, I don't want to mess around too much. I don't want a lot of bats from this game at all, so I'm probably going to be shying away from it for the most part. Next game we can talk about, we got San Francisco Giants against the New York Yankees. Let's see, we got Madison Bumgarner on the mound for the Giants. 2.12 ERA for Bumgarner, 0.98 whip, 155 strikeouts, 135 innings, and the Yankees are not very good against left-handed pitching. So Carlos Beltran, probably the one bat I would look at a little bit. He's their best hitter against righty and left-handed pitching. If you want to look at the other righties, like maybe Didi Gregorius, he's been hitting well. Maybe a Starlin Castro, but honestly, I don't really see a reason why you want to go against Bumgarner in this game. On the other side of this game, we got Masahiro Tanaka. Tanaka is about a 230 batting average allowed to both right and left-handed bats. Low walk rate, does give up a couple solo home runs every now and then, but he's been pitching very well this season as well. Maybe a Brandon Belt, 364 WOBA, 193 ISO, left-handed bat in Yankee Stadium, does have the power to take him yard. Maybe a Buster Posey, but honestly, the San Francisco lineup's kind of banged up right now too, so you don't really want to mess around with too many of these guys either. Let's see. The next one we have up here, we got Cleveland at Baltimore. Cleveland at Baltimore is another game that I think is kind of interesting. On the mound for Cleveland is Trevor Bauer. He's been pretty good this year. Very tough on right-handed bats. Left-handed bats do a little bit better against them, but not great. 239 average to left-handed bats, 4 home runs in 52 innings, but he does have a high fly ball rate. I think a guy like Chris Davis is a decent play here. 390 WOBA, 316 ISO score for him, so he's somebody I think we can look at. You actually got a couple of the righties that do pretty well. There's a couple guys on Baltimore very good in righty-on-righty situations. Manny Machado is 383 WOBA, 237 ISO, 5 of 8 lifetime against Bauer with 2 home runs. So that's some numbers that kind of perk you up when you take a look at them. Jonathan Scope, who's been hot, is another one of those guys. 371 WOBA, 238 ISO score, and 3 for 5 lifetime against Bauer. So I think he's another guy that we can look at. On the other side of this game, Dylan Bundy is pitching for Baltimore. Young kid, probably only going to go like 4 or 5 innings in this one. It's going to turn into a little bit of a bullpen game. I like the left-handed bats or the guys that hit right-handed pitching well on this Cleveland team. And that's basically everybody. I mean, Kipnis is probably the top play. I think Lindor is a solid option. Carlos Santana, if he's leading off, is somebody I like. And then even a guy at the bottom of the order like Tyler Naquin. Tyler Naquin actually has the best numbers against right-handed pitching on this team. So he's definitely somebody else I think we can look at. Next game we have is Philly against Pittsburgh. You got Garrett Cole on the mound. Real tough on right-handed bats. Left-handed bats do okay against them, but they do have a low home run rate. This Philly offense is just really not good. I think this is a good matchup at home for Cole. Only guy I'd really look at, maybe Odubel Herrera, 350 WOBA for him as a left-handed bat against right-handed pitching. Other than that, I think Cole's kind of going to dominate here. Other side of this game for the Phillies, you got Zach Eflin. Right and lefties are both doing well against him. They're higher average for the right-handed bats. The lefties have been the one that have been showing all the power. This Pittsburgh offense hasn't been great lately, but they do have a lot of guys that are solid. It's a solid lineup from top to bottom. Something that I think I'd rather stack up than just take individual picks from. But if you are stacking them up, I mean, I think you use the whole outfield, Kutch, Marte, Polanco, the lefty. I like Jung Ho Kang at third base. They've been batting David Freese up in the order. You can go with John Jaso. I think it's more of a game where you stack up those bats to go against Eflon than it is a game where you try to take these guys as, one-offs and pick and choose which one you want. Next game, we have Seattle against Toronto. James Paxton on the mound for Seattle. This kid's a big prospect, but I have a tough time thinking he's going to have a good game here. Right-handed bats are hitting 335 against him in his limited innings in the majors, and Toronto crushes left-handed pitching. So, Edwin Encarnacion, 389 WOBA, 285 ISO. Josh Donaldson, 399, 270. They've been batting Darwin Barney in the leadoff spot against lefties, so he's in play. I love Devin Travis, even though they've been burying him in the order against left-handed pitching. I think he's in play. I think Russ Martin's in play. I think you can basically look at a lot of these guys on this Blue Jays team. I think they're going to put up some runs here, especially now that this game is at home in Toronto instead of in Seattle. The other side of this game, Marco Estrada. He's been very good this year. He is coming off the DL, had a little bit of a lower back problem that kept him out. He's given up a few walks and a few home runs, but left-handed bats are only hitting 191 against him. Right-handed bats are hitting 153 against him. He does have a high fly ball rate, though, so when guys make contact, there is a chance that they're going to take him yard. And like I said, he has been walking a few guys, so his whip is a little bit higher than you would expect for somebody with a batting average against it that's low, but that's eye-poppingly low batting average against from both sides for him. A couple guys that I'm looking at, I really want the guys that have home run upside as one-offs if I'm going to look at anybody on Seattle. And what I mean by that is, look at a guy like Robinson Cano, 375 WOBA, 216 ISO, has that home run upside. Maybe a guy like Nelson Cruz, even though it's righty on righty, 364 WOBA, 224 ISO score. With a guy who has such a low batting average against, you're not trying to stack up any of the bats on Seattle here. Like I said, he does give up home runs. So if you're going to use one of these guys, you use a Cano or you use a Cruz as a one-off, meaning, instead of stacking up the entire Mariners team, you just add one of those guys into whatever group or stack that you have, to kind of round out a roster as a low-owned tournament option. Next game we talk about Arizona at Cincinnati. You got Dan Straley on the mound for Cincinnati, and he's actually been pretty good. I mean, righties and lefties are both hitting below 230 against him this year, although he does have a high fly ball rate. Goldie, somebody that you got to look at, 394 WOBA, 234 ISO. Jake Lamb, the lefty, 373 WOBA, 227 ISO. Those are the two guys that I really want to have some exposure to. I don't really love them against Straley, but Straley's probably only going to go maybe 5 or 6 innings, and then you're going to get a couple innings out of the bullpen, and that Cincinnati bullpen is garbage. Let's see. On the other side of this game, you got Archie Bradley. Left-handed bats hitting 285 against him with 5 home runs in 31 innings pitched. Votto, 412 WOBA, 227 ISO. Jay Bruce, guy with home run power. Adam Duvall, home run power, like both of those guys in this game. Also like Billy Hamilton as a left-handed bat. He can get on base. Bradley gives up a lot of base hits to lefties. If he gets on base, you know what Hamilton does. He steals second. He scores a run. He gets you 10 points in one at-bat and, kind of pays off the salary for you. So I do like Billy Hamilton. Do think he's somebody that's going to be in play here. Next game I want to talk about, we got Minnesota at Boston. You got Eduardo Rodriguez on the mound for Boston. He has not been good this year. Right-handed bats, 271 average, 9 home runs in 30 innings. I love Miguel Sano against them. Only 4,100, really cheap price on DraftKings. 398 WOBA, 261 ISO against left-handed pitching. So I love Sano. Definitely want to have some of him in my lineups. I also like Brian Dozier, 360 WOBA, 251 ISO score for Dozier against left-handed pitching. I think those two guys are the upside guys that I want to have some exposure to here. On the other side of this game, Kyle Gibson on the mound. Left-handed bats hitting 313 against him. He is a high ground ball pitcher, but he does give up a lot of hits. I like David Ortiz, 430 WOBA, 350 ISO. How can you not like him against any right-handed pitcher? Jackie Bradley Jr. had the home run last night, 381 WOBA, 284 ISO. Great numbers for him against righties. Travis Shaw, another lefty, I think you could even throw in there, 342 WOBA, 195 ISO. And then even Mookie Betts at the top of the order. This guy is just a solid hitter. 360 WOBA for him, 200 ISO score, even a righty-on-righty matchup. Still somebody I think we need some exposure to. Next game we talk about New York Mets at the Miami Marlins. Adam Conley on the mound, the lefty for Miami. He's actually been pretty good this year. Right-handed bats have the better power numbers, but lefties actually have the higher average. On the Mets team, this isn't a great lineup. I mean, Cespedes is their best hitter, but he's not been all that great lately. He was a little bit banged up. I still don't think he's 100%, but, he is their best hitter. The other guy I really want to talk about, though, is Wilmer Flores. And, you guys know that I love Flores. Whenever we get Flores against a lefty, he's been producing for us. He's got a 420 WOBA. He's got a 318 ISO score, crushing left-handed pitching for both average and power lately. So Flores is going to probably be in the 4 or the 5 hole in this order today, and I definitely think he's somebody that we want to look at. The other side of this game, Logan Verrett, left-handed bats hitting 264 against them with a low home run rate. Right-handed bats reverse split 278, 7 home runs in 29 innings. So the righties have actually been lighting them up, which I think makes Giancarlo Stanton the guy that stands out the most. 350 WOBA, 255 ISO in righty on righty matchups. He has that huge home run power going up against a guy, Verrett, high fly ball rate, high home run allowed percentage to right-handed bats. I think this could be a good spot to get a righty on righty home run out of Stanton at low ownership. You can use guys like Yelich and Dietrich and Ichiro if they're in there, all high WOBA guys against right-handed pitching. None of them really have the upside that you're looking for. But, like I said, if you're looking to put some left-handed bats in against Verrett, that is probably the easier way to go against them. Next game, we talk about Chicago Cubs at the Milwaukee Brewers. You got slipping Jimmy Nelson on the mound, right-handed pitcher. Left-handed bats have a higher average, better power numbers against them. I love Anthony Rizzo in this matchup, 406 WOBA, 281 ISO. Big left-handed bat, absolutely crushes right-handed pitching, so he's my favorite play. You can look at the other lefties on the Cubs I think are in play. Guys like La Stella if he's leading off, Ben Zobrist if he's up towards the top of the order, maybe a Jason Hayward as well. Bryant does well in righty-on-righty situations. Contreras does well in righty-on-righty situations, but Nelson is actually pretty tough on the righty, so I don't think it's going to be easy for them. I think the lefties is easily the path of least resistance that you want to try to attack them with. The other side of this game, Jason Hamill, left-handed bats hitting 263 against them. He's been very tough on righties, only a 192 average. And as we know, this Milwaukee team is very right-handed. So I can't see them having a really good game here. I mean, if you want to use the lefties, guys like Scooter Gannett or, Jonathan Villar can bat up from the left side. I really don't see it. I think Hamill has a good game here. I don't think I'm going to be taking a lot of Milwaukee bets against them. I don't think any of them really profile all that well. Next game is Detroit, Chicago White Sox. Michael Fulmer on the mound for Detroit, and this kid's been amazing. 10 straight starts with 2 runs or less allowed, giving up about a hit and walk per inning or less, getting a couple strikeouts for you. I mean, just absolutely really, really good pitcher. Probably a Rookie of the Year candidate at this point in the season. The White Sox offense is just really not all that good, so I'm not taking any bats against Fulmer here today. On the other side of this game, and the other thing, too, is he's probably going to get the win, because on the other side of this game, you got Jacob Turner, who's probably one of the weakest pitchers on the mound. It was a guy that was in AAA. They called him up. This is his second start. He got lit up in his first start, went 4 innings, 7 hits, 3 walks, 8 runs, gave up 2 home runs here. He's going up against the Detroit team. Very good hitting Detroit lineup. So, I think top to bottom, you can stack this team up. You can use these guys as one-offs. You definitely want some exposure to Detroit here. Kinsler's in play. Maven's in play. I like Cabrera a little more than I like V-Mart, but I'm not going to argue with anybody who goes in either direction if you're playing on DraftKings and can only use one of them. On FanDuel, remember, you can use V-Mart at catcher and Miggy at first, so you can get them both in there. I think that would be my 4, Kinsler, Maven, Cabrera, and V-Mart if I'm playing over on FanDuel. On DraftKings, I'd use one of those 2 guys and then maybe throw in like Castellano and Upton, but you definitely want to have exposure to this offense. The Los Angeles Angels are going up against the Houston Astros here. Matt Shoemaker on the mound for the Angels, and he's had a complete turnaround. He's been absolutely dominant over about the last month. His strikeouts are up, the home runs allowed, the base on balls are down, so I definitely think this is something sustainable. In his 3 starts against Houston this year, he's made 3 starts against Houston, pitched about 22 innings against them, 21.2, 21 hits, 3 walks, 6 runs, 25 strikeouts. So, he's averaging going about 7 innings, giving up about a walk and hit per inning, giving up 2 runs per game, and, getting about 8 strikeouts. So that would be a really solid return if we get that from him again today. You add the win bonus on top of that, he's in the mid to high 20s and, it's probably one of the better starting pitcher options on the day, even at 10K over on DraftKings. I actually haven't looked at FanDuel yet. I'm not sure what his price is over there. On the other side of this game, though, I also like Lance McCullers on the mound. Left-handed bats have a little bit of a higher average against them, but there aren't a lot of good lefties on this Angels team. And he's got the profile of the kind of pitcher that we like. He's got a high strikeout rate. He's got a high ground ball rate, doesn't give up a lot of home runs, keeps the ball in the park. He does walk a few too many guys. That's something I think he needs to get under control, but he's been better with it. I really like McCullers here. I mean, the only bet I take against him is Mike Trout, who to me is in play against any pitcher. 416 WOBA, 282 ISO for Trout, but outside of Trout, I don't want any exposure to Los Angeles Angels bats today. Against the Cardinals, Michael Wacha's on the mound, and he's been better lately. Right-handed bats are actually the way to attack them. Reverse split, they have a little bit of a higher average. I love Justin Turner in this matchup. Turner is a reverse splits hitter going up against Wacha, who's a reverse splits right-handed pitcher. It's about the perfect matchup for him, and Turner's been very good since the start of last season. 384 WOBA, 224 ISO. He's already 3 of 8 lifetime against Wacha, has an extra base hit as well. So I think that Justin Turner at a good price is definitely somebody I want some exposure to today. The other side of this game, Brandon McCarthy has been very good in his first 3 starts since coming off the DL. It's not an easy matchup for him, but St. Louis has actually been struggling since Matt Carpenter went down. You take Carpenter's on-base percentage out of the top of that lineup, and you're putting guys in there who are, rookies like maybe a Greg Garcia, or they hit Randall Gearchuk lead off the other day. And I actually like Gearchuk. He's pretty good in righty-on-righty matchups, but, like I said, this lineup is still a little bit weaker, so I think this is a good spot for McCarthy. He's expensive, but anywhere you can still find him cheap, I think he's a good pitcher. I mean, he's put up like 27, 24, and 17 in the first 3 starts that he's had here. And I don't see a reason why he couldn't do it again today. I'm not really in love with the St. Louis offense with, with the injuries they have to guys like Moss and Carpenter, especially against right-handed pitching. Next game we can talk about, we got Texas against Kansas City. You got Yu Darvish on the mound for Texas. This is his 5th start. He's still recovering, but in the first couple starts that he's had, he's averaging about 5 innings pitched, 7 strikeouts, and just shutting down the opposing offenses. So not really going with any Kansas City bats here. If they do any damage, it's going to be in the 6th, 7th, 8th, 9th inning against the relievers. Darvish, when he's healthy, was one of the best pitchers in baseball. And, like I said, the only problem is he's coming back off the DL from an injury. But, again, he's been pitching very, very well since his return. The other side of this game, Danny Duffy has been pitching very well, too. He's been very good lately. The strikeouts are up. In his last 5 games, he's thrown at least 100 pitches in each one of them, so the innings are up. So he's pitching more innings, getting more strikeouts, putting up bigger numbers for fantasy. I think he's been averaging like 25 fantasy points over those last 5 games, so really turned into a solid pitcher. Right-handed bat's the way to go after him. 245 average, 12 home runs in 70 innings. I don't think he's given a home run up the lefties, so I know there's a lot of lefties on this Rangers team. I'm shying away from all of them. I do want to play some of these righties, though. I mean, you get a guy like Ian Desmond, who's been absolutely on fire. Great bounce-back season for him. 376 WOBA, 196 ISO. The numbers are there as well. Adrian Beltre, their best hitter against left-handed pitching, 395 WOBA, 228 ISO since the start of 2015. And then even Chirinos, the catcher, who just came back. He has home run upside, although Duffy doesn't give up a lot of home runs, and Kansas City's not a good home run park. But a 364 WOBA, 255 ISO score for Chirinos against left-handed pitching means that he's somebody that's in play that you want to look at. Next game up, we got Tampa Bay at Oakland. Sean Manaea, the left-handed rookie for Oakland, is on the mound. I hate this spot for him. I think Tampa Bay is going to light him up. Logan Forsythe, 407, 290 WOBA. 407 WOBA, 290 ISO. Evan Longoria, 390 WOBA, 228 ISO. Brandon Guyer, 397 WOBA, 205 ISO. Steve Pearce is back in the lineup now, 350 WOBA, 227 ISO. Even Steven Souza, right-handed power going up against a left-handed pitcher. I like those 5 guys on DraftKings if you're stacking them up. If you're playing on FanDuel, maybe drop Sosa off and leave Pearce in there. I think this is going to be a low-owned stack. This Tampa Bay team has a ton of power, and they crush left-handed pitching. Manaea is a guy who has been beat up a little bit in some of his career starts. He's very tough on lefties, but right-handed bats hit him very well. So you got all these righties that hit lefties really well, and you got a left-handed pitcher that struggles against right-handed batters. I think it's a perfect match that this Tampa Bay lineup should be able to light them up, even in a bad hitter's park like Oakland today. On the other side of that game, you got Jake Odorizzi, only 6,600 going up against Oakland. He's a reverse splits pitcher. Right-handed bats do better against them. Higher fly ball rate, more home runs, higher batting average, so everything favors the right-handed bats. I like the righty-on-righty matchups for Chris Davis in this one. 351 WOBA, 260 ISO. Huge power in righty-on-righty matchups. Had it in Milwaukee, still has it in Oakland. I think this is a great spot for Chris Davis. Also like the spot for Danny Valencia. 350 WOBA, 211 ISO. We prefer Valencia against lefties, but he's proven he can hit righties as well. and he's hitting cleanup right in the middle of that order, him and Davis. I think both guys are going to be in a pretty good spot today. Now, the last game on the day is one that I think the ownership is going to be higher than it should be on the batters and lower than it should be on the pitchers. I know it's Coors Field, but Teheran and Gray are both very good pitchers. If you want to take guys against Gray, Gray has a high strikeout rate, a low ground ball rate. He's worse at home. I'm not going to say that he isn't, but he still had some pretty solid starts, even in Coors Field. And remember, this Atlanta team, for the most part, is not a very good hitting team. You got Freddie Freeman, a little bit expensive because he's in Coors, 368 WOBA, 234 ISO. I probably won't have any of them today. It's not that I don't like him. I just don't think he's going to be worth the price that you have to pay up for him, especially given the ownership rate that he's going to be. So I'm not using him in tournaments, and I don't even have him as my first baseman in cash. On the other side with Julio Teheran, he's been great, and I understand it's Coors Field, and, guys don't pitch as well in Coors Field, but I'm not really looking to target a lot of Rockies bats heavily against him. He does struggle against the left-handed bats. Cargo, 411 WOBA, 292 ISO, but he's 0 for 8 lifetime against Teheran. Then you also look at, Charlie Blackmon, 364 WOBA, 184 ISO. He's only 4 of 15 against, Julio Teheran. So I really don't see anybody that stands out here as being huge. I think, if this was just a normal game and it was in another park, I think these guys would be guys that I'd probably target for a tournament. But remember, in a tournament, you're going to have Cargo and Blackmon because it's Coors Field at 20-30% ownership, which is down from the 50% ownership Cargo was yesterday. But still, if they're going to be that highly owned, I don't think you get the upside for them, especially when you have to pay up, especially knowing that they're going against a pretty good pitcher. So I kind of like Teheran. I kind of like Gray. I could see one or both of these guys pitching really well in this game. And I can see the bats on both of these teams being higher owned than they should be because it's Coors and probably not putting up big numbers here today. So I'm not calling for a total Coors fade, but I do think this is a good day. It's always a good day to fade Coors in tournaments if you're trying to be different. But I actually think this is a good day where you don't want a ton of exposure to them in your cash games either. So that's kind of the way that I see it. And that wraps it up for the 15-game slate. Thank you guys for tuning in to rotocurve.com for our Benny's Bats edition. And as always, stay classy, DFS.